Welcome to the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Doby. Join Jason as he explores the many ways to unlock personal growth, mindfulness, and spiritual transformation. So now, please welcome the host of Transformative Pathways, Jason Doby.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jason Doby, founder of Transformative Pathways Life Coaching. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, I'll be doing a solo Q&A episode, and I'll be answering your questions on life coaching, personal growth, mindfulness, spirituality, and even a few from my own journey. From overcoming challenges to discovering your purpose, we'll dive into the topics that matter most to you. And if you're watching the show live and you'd like to submit a question, you can write it in the group chat, or you can also call us at the number on the screen. Before we get started with your questions, I'd like to take a moment and talk about my new 12-week coaching program, The Journey Within, that I'm launching at the end of March. This program is designed for men who are feeling lost right now, disconnected from who they truly are, there's more to life, but they're unsure of how to access it. You might feel stuck in the same cycle, craving deeper purpose, connection, and clarity, but not knowing where to start. That's exactly why I created The Journey Within, to help you break through the noise, reconnect with your true self, and step into the life you're truly meant to live. If this sounds like it's for you, I would love to connect. All you have to do is click the link in my show notes to connect with me, or go to jasondoby.com to submit your application today. I'm also offering a special discount of $500 off for the first intake, and all you have to do is mention that you listen to the Transformative Pathways podcast to receive this savings. Spaces are limited for this first intake in March, and I only have a few spots left. So please reach out to me as soon as possible to secure your spot. Once all the spots are filled, we'll be booking for our next intake, which will be taking place in September. And the $500 discount will still apply to all listeners of the podcast. All right, well, let's get into it. This is super exciting. This is my first solo episode, so it's a little bit new for me, but just bear with me. I think it's going to be great. All right, so I got a bunch of questions that I got from my followers and on Instagram and my private community. So I'm just going to go through them here, I guess. So the first question, in no particular order here: how do you find time to quiet your mind in the world and life? How do you find time to quiet your mind when the world and life is so busy and chaotic? I think this is a great question, and it's really important. How do I find time to quiet my mind? So first off, I want to say that I'm one of those people that has a super, super busy mind. So I don't know if I really actually ever do quiet my mind, but it's just kind of being in control of my mind is how I explain it. So the most important thing I do would be my daily meditation practice. So every morning I wake up, I'll set an intention for the day to kind of set the tone of my thoughts. So my mind is always going to go crazy, but I want to be in control of the thoughts I'm having from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And that starts first thing in the morning when I wake up by setting an intention to what type of day I'm going to have. And then also, sitting on my mat and doing a silent meditation and going within. And this really sets the tone for the day. There's days where I'm super busy and I got to get up early for work and I don't have time to do a meditation. And I can really notice a huge difference throughout my day on the days where I don't do a meditation. So that's a big one. But I don't really know if we're ever going to totally quiet our mind. So I don't know if that is a realistic goal or not. And then obviously there's other things that you do to kind of take your mind off things. If you're like me, you're always worrying about the future and what's going on. So I really try to practice mindfulness and stay in the present moment. Some things that work for me would be, going for walks or taking breaks. If I'm really busy at work, I'll take a break. And if I'm working from home, I can pick up my guitar and strum on the guitar a little bit. taking my dog for a walk, getting out in nature. That's a really good way. Just connecting with the earth, anything that you can do to kind of bring you into the present moment and bring you into your body. Grounding is a really good one. But yeah, so that's what I do. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's what I do to kind of control my mind. Next question. How do you find the right coach for you? And this is a great question. So I myself have worked with a handful of coaches now over the past couple of years. And, they all kind of just came to me. I just kind of found them. I've never really had to go out and look for one. So I'm lucky in that way. But I did get advice from one of my mentors once. And, finding the right coach for you is, finding someone that you resonate with, someone that you can relate to their story, because you really want to work with someone that you feel comfortable with. So I would recommend, following people on Instagram. That's probably the main place to find people now. Follow people on Instagram, just find someone that truly resonates with you. You can follow them for a while and you'll know when the time is right. Like, for example, I have a social media coach that I've been following for a while, and I know that when the time is right, that I'm going to work with her. The time's not right for me right now, but I know that when the time is right, that I'm going to work with her because I followed her. I really like her style. I really like, the stuff that she says, and I have a bit of an emotional attachment to her now. So, I would just recommend, just kind of trust your feelings on it. And most coaches do free consultations too. So you can always book a free consultation with someone if you're not sure, to get a feel for it, and just kind of trust your gut. If you get a good feeling, go with it. If you get a bad feeling, then maybe you don't want to work with that person. So that would be my recommendation. All right, next question. What makes your coaching program unique? And this is a great question. So what makes my coaching program unique is that it is designed by me, and you get to work with me. And, everyone is unique. All the coaches are unique. Everyone has something different to offer. We all have a different story and a different background. So, no two people are the same in this world. So I think what makes me unique is my own personal experiences and my own background. That would be the first thing I'd say. I'm the only Jason Dobie in the world. So, that's the first thing that makes my program unique. And the second thing is, although the program is a one-on-one coaching program, we do have a group community aspect, because I think that's something that's really important, and that a lot of guys need, is that connection with other people as well. So I think having that group community, and that's it's like a chat room in Slack. So everyone that goes through my program will be part of this community, so they can communicate with each other and share with each other. So I think that's really important, and that is unique from what other people are doing. So you get those connections, and you get to make some friendships and connections with some like-minded individuals, which is super cool. Also, we have the online learning portal. So it's not just it's not just having weekly sessions every week. There's also an online learning portal that's going to go through a series of weekly topics and worksheets and reflection exercises, which is going to take you on your journey. And I think the other thing that makes this unique, and I already touched on this, is my own personal journey and my own personal experiences, because I've developed this program based on my personal journey and the challenges that I've went through. So my program is going to be unique from someone else's program, because we all come from a different background, and we all have a different perspective and different experiences. So I think that's it for that one. Great question. Thank you so much for asking that one. Next question. This is a good one too. Why are you focusing just on men? That's a great question. So when I started my life coaching business a year ago, I was just, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to help people. So I was just a life coach. I didn't really have a title. I didn't really have a niche or anything. I just knew I wanted to help people. And, through the last year, most of the paying clients that I've had have been female, which is surprising. When I was developing my program, originally it was going to be for men and women, because I was in a 12-week coaching program last year, which had men and women in it, and it was the first kind of group. It was a group program, but it was the first coaching program I had ever been in. So I was kind of designing my program based around that. And then what happened was, I guess you could say I got a couple signs from the universe. And, just to backtrack on that, like one thing I do practice in my life is I try to pay attention to signs from the universe and, opportunities and signs that are coming my way, because we're always getting little hints thrown at us, little breadcrumbs on which direction to go. So I had 3 particular signs in 1 week that kind of led me to believe that I needed to be working with men, and a lot of guys out there are struggling right now. So I took that and I pivoted, and I started rewriting my program again. I got this download came to me at 3:00 in the morning one night, and I was just writing everything down like crazy. And the other thing is, there's so many spaces for females out there. There's so many female coaches, and there's so many spaces for females to go and get help. And I think what is missing is these group spaces for men right now. So I think, that this is something that's really needed in the world right now. And I think it's very important. So, that's why I made the pivot to work with men, and kind of change my niche to focus on men. And that being said, I am not opposed to working with women. If any ladies out there resonate with me and my message, I would be totally open to having a conversation with you, and working with you, and even putting you through the program. The only thing it would just be a little bit different. It would have to modify it a little bit for you, and you would not be part of the kind of group community chat with all the guys, because I would just want to keep that separate. I want to keep that a safe space for guys. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. But so that's where the inspiration came, and and I'm just kind of trusting and rolling with it. So I'm trusting that it's going to work out, and I'm on the right path. But thank you for that question. All right. So next question. People say having a coach is like a rudder on a vessel. They keep you traveling in the right direction. Can you explain this? All right. This is a really interesting question, and I have heard this before. So having a coach is like a rudder on a vessel. And I believe the rudder is like the thing that helps like steer the boat when the boat is driving. So I'm just going to use my own personal experience to kind of answer this. So I've been on the personal growth journey now for a while. I'm going to say 10 years or so. And I've been reading books and doing all these things and kind of bouncing all over the place. I read one book and then I jump over and read this book and that book, and never really implementing what I'm learning or really practicing what I'm learning, just kind of jumping from one thing to the next. And I think what this description is saying is, or this analogy is saying, is that, when you're working with a coach, it's going to help you steer in the right direction. It's going to help you, stay on track, so you're not jumping around all over the place. And at the end of the day, that's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to keep you focused. It's going to help you dial into your goals. And the coach is also going to help you, push yourself and hold you accountable as well. So I think that's my explanation on there. I hope that's a good explanation for you. Thank you very much for that one. And our next question, what are the major differences between working on issues myself and having a coach working for me? So I think that's kind of similar to the question that I just answered, but I'll touch on that a little bit more. Like for my own experiences, when you're doing it yourself, some days you don't really feel like it, and you don't want to do the work, or you're going to put things off to the following week or whatever, and I think you're not as motivated. But when you're working with a coach, I think the most two really important things working with a coach. The first one is you have that person to hold you accountable. So, you have a meeting with your coach next week, and you had a list of actions that you have to take during the week. So you have to get that done before you have your meeting. Whereas if you're doing it on your own, you don't really have the same motivation. It's a lot easier to kind of fall off and slack off a little bit, I guess. So having that mentor to kind of push you and give you that accountability, I think is really good. And another thing I mentioned, that working with a coach, your coach is supposed to push you a little bit and make you feel uncomfortable, because growth is uncomfortable. And, that's the whole point. If we want to grow, we have to get out of our comfort zones. So a coach is going to, help you get out of that comfort zone. And if you're just doing it on your own, it's going to be way too easy to stay in that comfort zone. And then you're not going to get the growth you're looking for. And the second part to that was, aside from accountability, is having someone in your corner. Even when things are tough and you don't think you're making progress, and then you have your weekly meeting with the coach, and usually the first thing they say is, what are your wins from this week? And big or small, like, what are your wins? And you say you had a goal to, I don't know, post a video on the internet or create a social media account or something, and that was something that was really hard for you to do and you were really struggling with. And, and then you went and did it, and you told your friends, like, hey, look, I did this thing. And they're going to be like, yeah, so what? Everyone has that. Like, what's the big deal? They don't really, you're not going to get, those people in your corner cheering you on. Whereas, when you're working with a coach, they're cheering you on every step of the way. And they know that even the smallest little wins are such a big deal for you. So it's so great to have that person in your corner that can, that's cheering you on and can celebrate the wins with you. I think that's really valuable. And that's been something that's been really helpful for me with the coaches I've worked with as well. So yeah, I think those are the major differences. That was a great question as well. Thank you very much for that one. Next question: how much time or money can I save by working with a life coach or a mentor? And this is another really great question. I think a lot of people, the biggest excuse that people make when for reasons to not work with a coach or a mentor, the top two that I hear are, I don't have time and I don't have money. And those are the two biggest excuses. But how much time and money can you save? So it all depends on, what your goals are. And I'll give you an example from my own life here too. So I started my business. Sorry, it's cold in here. I'm just like shivering a little bit. I should have wore a sweater. I started my business a year ago, and I was working with a mentor at the time, which helped me get my business going. And she helped me a lot, with getting my social media going and, getting the confidence to start my business and all that stuff. So if I had not worked with her, I probably wouldn't even have started my business. I wouldn't have set those goals and I wouldn't have followed through. So how much time did that save me? I don't even know. I might have not even started my business now. So, that could have saved me years of time. And I worked with her for 3 months in a 3-month program. And, and how much money did that save me? In those couple of years, I would have just been searching and looking for books and doing all this stuff. So, spending money on things that aren't really going to help me. Self-help books are great. I read self-help books all the time, but having the guidance of a mentor is really powerful too. And the other example I wanted to use was I just did a 12-week business mentorship, which was a high ticket coaching program. And when I first signed up for it, it was a big investment for me, and it was really difficult to make that big investment in myself. And as soon as I signed up and made the investment, I immediately wanted to throw up. And I'm like, oh man, I'm hoping I'm making the right decision. But I did make the right decision. And the amount of value I gained from working with those business mentors. Now I'm launching my program next month. I have all the back end of my business set up. I'm building my online portal. I've made a new website. All my stuff looks really good. It looks professional. I'm really happy with it. So although I've made that big investment, it saved me so much time, probably a couple years. And in that, it saved me tons of money. So, although it might be scary to make the investment with your time and your money, it is important to look at it from that perspective. Like how much is it going to cost you to stay where you are right now? How much is it worth for you to make those changes you want to make? That's something you want to contemplate. So that is a great question. I hope I answered that properly. So next we have, what can I do if I need a coach and I can't afford one? This is another really great question. And I had a conversation with an old buddy of mine this week, or last week actually, who was kind of in the same boat. He would be perfect for my program, but he's at a point in his life where he doesn't have the resources to make the investment. So I had a conversation with him, and after I got off the phone with him, I had some ideas. So I sent him another message. But one thing I did myself, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I first got sober and I was going through my stuff, and I knew I needed some help, and I wanted to talk to someone. I wanted to go to therapy or something, but I didn't want to pay for it. And then I found out that there was some options available for me. So what I did was I went and talked to my family doctor. And I just have to say that I live in Canada, so this is in Canada, so it might be different for you guys that live in the US. So I can only speak to people that live in Canada or in Ontario. I went to my family doctor and I told him what was up. And what he did was he gave me a referral to the outpatient mental health clinic at the local hospital. So from there, I got put on a waiting list. And I think I waited a couple months, and I went to an information session, and they had all these different group programs. So it was like a group therapy thing. And I sat through the information session, and I got to, kind of pick 3 programs that I was interested in. I think they were 6 to 8 weeks long. So we met once a week. It was about an hour a week. So I signed up. The 3 programs I signed up for was, mindfulness meditation, the Be Your Best Self group, and CBT level 1. And it didn't cost me anything, and that was a huge turning point for me. That's where I started my meditation journey many years ago. And then I went from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, and then basically graduated. And they had to kick us out because they had more people that they needed to go through the program, which makes sense. But I'm really grateful that I was able to do that because that was a huge turning point for me. So if you can't afford a coach right now, there is options for you out there. You just have to look for it. So, the best thing to do is talk to your family doctor or your local doctor, and they can hopefully point you in the right direction. All right, that is another great question. All right, we're going to go back up to the top here. All right. So next question is, why did you leave the culinary industry after so many years? You were such an amazing chef. And what made you decide to become a coach? Thank you very much for that question. I get asked this question all the time. And, the funny thing is, I've been out of the kitchen now for 2 years, and I get offered head chef jobs all the time. And I told someone the other day that I wouldn't go back in the kitchen if you paid me $1 million a year. And that's how I truly felt. But, why did I leave the culinary industry? Because I didn't love it. I didn't love what I did. I was good at it. I was successful at it. And, everyone was shocked when I left. But, at the end of the day, I just was not happy inside. I'd go home at the end of the day and I just had this feeling of emptiness inside of me. Like, something was missing. And I'm like, what am I doing this for? And then I used to say to myself, what else am I going to do with my life? I'm making good money. I've worked so hard to get here. I'm 40 years old. What am I going to do? I can't change careers now. But, that was a limiting belief. And that's what kept me stuck. That's what kept me stuck in that job for a long time. And I felt this way probably for the last 15 years. I was working in a kitchen. So that's a long time to be hating your job and hating your life and waking up every day and just dreading the day ahead. And I just can't imagine like going back to that point. I was in a constant state of stress and anxiety. It was not healthy for me. It was not healthy for my family. I worked every weekend. I worked every holiday. I didn't get to see my kids. And then one day I decided, I don't have to do this anymore. The idea that I can't do anything else, that was just a story I was telling myself. So that wasn't reality. That wasn't true. And one day I think you have to get a little bit mad sometimes. And, I got mad one day and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to take control of my life and I can do whatever I want. And that's when I decided that I was going to make a change. But I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I just knew I didn't want to work in a kitchen anymore. So I was looking for any job. And my goal was to get a Monday to Friday job. So I actually left the kitchen. I left my head chef job and I got a job as a breakfast cook. And everyone really thought I was crazy. Like, what the hell is this guy doing? But, I didn't care. I just wanted to see my kids. I wanted to be home at nighttime. That was one of my dreams for my whole life. I wanted to enjoy my summer. I didn't want to spend my whole summer slaving away in a kitchen, in 100 degrees, sweating my you-know-what off. So I worked as a breakfast cook at a golf course in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And I told my wife that I was going to find a sales job within 3 months was my goal. And I really strongly believed that this was going to happen. And luckily my wife was on board and, she supported me, even though she was terrified. But within 6 weeks, a sales job came to me. Someone I know from the industry reached out to me. And I got the job I always wanted. And that was great. And then through that, what made me decide to become a coach? I guess, a lot of things. This might be a long story too, but I've been practicing meditation for a long time. And when I first started meditating, I meditated because I had stress and anxiety. And I used it as a tool to help me cope with that stuff. But I think through the years of meditation, it kind of turned into a spiritual practice. And through that time, I was able to tune into my true self. The real me hidden underneath all these stories and all these layers. And through that, this might sound weird, but I started getting these kind of messages. That's when I had my spiritual awakening. I started getting these messages and these little hints that were kind of pushing me in a certain direction. And one of them was that I was supposed to be helping people. And then, when I got that message, I was desperately trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And I was searching and I knew I wanted to help people. And it wasn't because I got the message that I was supposed to be helping people. I truly, deep down inside, really enjoy helping people. And I always say, when I was a head chef, one of my favorite parts of my job was, being a mentor to my staff. And a lot of people that work in kitchens, and no offense to everyone out there, but not everyone has the best life, or has the best upbringing. There's a lot of troubled people that struggle with drugs and alcohol, and I was one of them as well. And after I got sober and clean, my staff would always come to me for advice, and that was one of my favorite parts of the job, was helping people, talking to them about my story, how meditation helped me, and just kind of being an inspiration for my staff. I always used to joke that I should have been a guidance counselor, because I really loved helping people and giving them guidance. But how could I turn this into a career? I had no idea. I didn't even know that life coaching was a thing, to be honest with you. But and then fast forward a little bit while later, when I hooked up with my first mentor, Shriyanka, I joined a 12-week group coaching program called Living with Soul. And this isn't even something that I really seeked out. It's another one of those things that just came to me. And I'm always open to opportunities, and I'm always looking for things coming from the universe. So I'm open to anything, and that's how I got this podcast show here too, and the same story as that. Possibilities are everywhere, but you just have to be open to them. And I was so closed off to all these things my whole life that now I'm just open to anything. And you never know, you could just be beside someone in line one day and start a conversation, and you never know where that's going to go. That could lead to, a possibility or a friendship or a connection or anything, just from saying hi to someone. So, possibilities are everywhere. You just have to be open to them. So to go back to the question, what made me decide to become a coach? So when I ended up in this 12-week coaching program, Living with Soul, and I was filling out my intake form, I had to set some goals. And one of the goals I set for myself was that I wanted to start a life coaching business in 6 to 12 months was my goal. And then I ended up, that was in November, a couple years ago. I think 2023. And then 2024, February, I registered my business. So my 6 to 12 month goal, November, December, January, February, within 3 months, I'd started my business. So that goes back to show you that, the power of working with a coach. So that went just from an idea to a registered business within 3 months, when I didn't even know, what a life coach was. So that's what made me decide to become a coach. And I'll tell you, it wasn't an easy decision to, start my own business and do all this stuff at 43 years old with 3 young kids. But I'm super happy that I decided to go for it. And I'm really proud of myself for how far I've come in the past year. And, for all you guys out there that know me from my past, I'm sure you can attest to this, just the growth I've had myself in the past year. You probably see it more than I do, but, that also goes to show, the benefits of working with coaches and mentors. I'm living proof of that right now. And that's a great question. All right. All right, guys. So before we go on to the next question, we're just going to take a really short break. So please stick around, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Thanks so much for staying with us for that short break here. So I just noticed a comment here in the comment section, and I apologize that I didn't notice that before, so I don't know how long that's been there. But the question is, do you think it's good to slow life down? And that's a great question, and I imagine it was probably related to something that I was talking about a while ago, and I'm sorry that I didn't see that earlier. But yes, I do think it's good to slow life down. And that's one thing that I've learned a lot from my mentors. And I have to remind myself to do that a lot too. Because I am such a busy person and my mind is so busy that I have to often have to remind myself to slow down sometimes. And that's one of the tools that we teach in the Journey Within 12-week program when we talk about managing overwhelm. And sometimes when we get super overwhelmed with life, we have to remind ourselves to slow down. And that seems really counterproductive because we think we have so much to do. We got to go fast, fast, fast to get everything done. But really, sometimes when you slow down, you actually end up getting more done than if you're going super fast. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's totally true. But, picture this. Well, I'll paint you a picture. Here's me, say Monday morning, I get up, I open my computer, and I got a big list of things to do, and I'm bouncing from all over the place, from this thing to this thing to this thing, and I'm trying to get everything done, but I'm not really finishing everything. I'm just doing bits. I'm doing bits of one thing, then something pops in my head. Oh, I have to do that, and I go to that thing, and something pops in my head, and I go to that, and I go to that thing. But really, I'm not getting anything done. So at that point, what I do is I'll stop and I'll slow down, and even just stop entirely. And one trick I do is, I learned this from one of my mentors too, is I'll pick out 3 things in the room. And whether you're in the room or outside, pick 3 things and stare at them one at a time, for 5 seconds or whatever. And what that does is it kind of takes your mind off of all the stuff that's swirling around in your head, and you kind of slow down, refocus, and calm yourself, and then you can kind of get back to work. So that's one thing that really works for me. And I think it's good to slow down in life in general, and just because when you slow down, you're going to be more mindful, and you're going to be more intentional of the things you're doing. And so that's something I really try to practice, but it's it can be difficult in this day and age. Everything's so busy, and people's attention spans, to watch an online video is like 1 second, and then they scroll. Everything's just going so fast. So yeah, I think it is really important to slow down, and that's a really good point. Thank you for asking that. All right, how much time we got here? Oh, we still got a bit more time. Okay, next question. What made you decide to quit drinking, and what advice do you have for someone who wants to go down that path? And that's a great question. And this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. What made me decide to quit drinking? I remember the moment exactly, the first time it happened, but I used to drink a lot. I used to drink every day, and I used to get blackout drunk. So I'd wake up in the morning. Wouldn't remember what I did the night before. I used to wake up in the morning, and I would remember that I had to work that day, but I wouldn't remember what I had for dinner. Wouldn't remember anything. And, that was every day. And it's kind of embarrassing, living that way. And I used to joke about it too, because, that was just the way I was. I used to joke that I had, with the guys at work, that I had this blackout diary, and I'd say, oh, I wrote another page in my blackout diary last night. And, I used to think it was funny, but is that funny? Not really. It's kind of embarrassing, especially when you're doing stupid shit that you don't remember, and then you're finding out from other people. I had a lot of moments like that in my life for years and years and years. And I think, you kind of outgrow it. I think I kind of outgrew it a little bit. And I had one moment that I remember. I guess I'll share this. I was at my cousin's wedding. This was, I don't know, the first time I quit drinking, maybe 12 years ago. I was at my cousin's wedding. All family was there. We were all drinking, getting hammered. Everyone was drinking. That's just what you do, right? And again, I got blackout drunk and don't remember much. And I woke up the next morning, and it was something that my dad said to me. And I won't repeat what he said to me, but he made a comment, and it really made me embarrassed. And then that was the day I decided, I'm not drinking anymore. This isn't me. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be like this. And I didn't tell anyone, but I said, I'm going to quit for a week. And I didn't really tell anyone. Then I quit for another week, and I didn't tell anyone. And then it was a month, and then it was 6 months, and then it was a year. And then, and then that's when I kind of started my journey, like I said before, and I got some help, and I went to my doctor, and I started the meditation group and all this stuff. But, I guess that would be the reason I decided. And also I'd like to add, the last couple of years that I drank, I knew that I needed to quit drinking. I knew that I had a problem, but I think I was waiting for someone to tell me I had a problem, because I'd say, I drink my 12 beers a night or whatever it was, and half a bottle of hard liquor or whatever it was. And I wake up in the morning and I'd say, holy shit, I go look at how much I drank, because obviously I didn't remember. And I'd say to myself, man, that's bad. And then I just kind of dismiss it. And I would tell myself, well, I guess I'm good unless, I'll wait until my wife says something. If my wife says something, then I'll quit drinking. So I kind of just kept putting it off. And I think I needed someone to give me shit and to tune me in a little bit. So that was the day I made the decision to quit drinking. That was the best decision I ever made, but also a hard one too. And what advice would I give to someone who wants to go down that path? If you have to be ready for it. And just like anything in life, you have to, we have to get pissed off at these moments, and we got to say, you know what? I'm not living like this anymore. You got to be serious about it, because, quitting drinking, I don't know what it's like now. I think a lot of people, being sober is cool now. And when I quit drinking, it was kind of getting cool. But, I remember the first time I quit drinking, and all the guys I worked with were like, I quit drinking for a month this one time, and all the guys at work were like, asking me, what the hell's wrong with you? How come you're not coming to the bar and all this stuff? It wasn't really supportive. It was more, being put down. So that is kind of difficult. So that's one thing to kind of look out for, or to plan for. So, I guess if you're going to go down that path, you have to know that your life is going to change. Your friends are going to change. You'll realize that some of your friends aren't really maybe your true friends. They're just drinking buddies. And when you stop drinking, there's going to be people that you're not going to hang out with anymore, because the only thing you had in common was getting blackout drunk. So when you take that out of the equation, you don't really have much to do or to talk about. And and it's not an easy road, because a lot of people use alcohol to suppress their emotions and to deal with their problems. So once you give that up, then you got to find other ways to deal with this shit. You can't just go get drunk every time you got a problem. So it's a long road, but it's definitely worth it. But just know it's going to be difficult. There's going to be challenges. It's a big life-changing decision. So if you want to go down that road, you got to be serious about it. And it's good to have support. AA is great. Personally, I never really went to AA. I went to a few meetings and it really helped me at times when I really needed it. But I was lucky that I had a lot of people that I could talk to in the industry that I worked in that were sober. So I had people that I could lean on at times when I really needed it. So you really need a support system. It's not something you just want to go off and do on your own. But it's a long road. It's really worth it. And that's where I started my meditation journey. And that's when I really got in touch with my emotions, because I never really dealt with my emotions before until I quit drinking. So I'd like to say I'm really in tune with my emotions now. But it took me a long time to get here. And after 10 years, I still have work to do, and I'm still dealing with my stuff too. So, and the other thing is your body goes through a big change when you quit drinking, because what the alcohol does to all your nerves and stuff. And I remember looking up on the internet one day, I Googled, how long does it take until you feel normal after you quit drinking? And the answer I got wasn't the one I was looking for. But, for someone who drank as much as me for as long as I did, it can take up to, 6 months to a year for your body to recalibrate and go through all that stuff, detox and recalibrate. But it's definitely worth it, and eating healthy and all that stuff. I never even used to eat. I used to just drink coffee and smoke cigarettes and eat McDonald's when I was hammered at nighttime. But so I'm not trying to deter anyone from quitting drinking. I'm just trying to say that it is a difficult road, and you got to be serious, and you got to be pissed off enough to want to do it. So I think a lot of things in life, when we make big decisions or we make changes in our life and we want to take control of our life, we kind of got to get pissed off and say, I'm not doing this anymore. And, that's kind of what worked for me. So if that resonates with anyone, and if anyone, I love talking about my story and quitting drinking. So if any of you guys out there are struggling with alcohol at all and need someone to talk to, feel free to reach out to me. You can shoot me a message on Instagram if you need any support or if you need any help being guided in the right direction. I'd be happy to help. I know lots of guys out there that are supporting people getting sober. So I'd love to help there. That was a long one. That was a good one. Thank you for that question. I think we maybe have time for one more. Okay, this is a good one. What's your number one piece of advice for someone feeling lost or stuck right now? And I love this question because I was that person who was feeling lost and stuck for a long time. But this is something that I've just kind of learned recently, through all my experiences. I'm still learning something new every day. And, it's learning the same things, but just from different perspectives as you evolve, I think. But for someone that's feeling lost or stuck, from what I understand, the reason why we feel that way is because we don't have any goals or anything that's driving us forward. And, when you have a goal that you're striving for, that gives you purpose, and it gives you a reason to, get up in the morning, gives you something to be excited about, something to strive for. And when we don't have those goals, we don't have that purpose, that's when we feel lost or stuck, because we're not growing. We're just staying where we're at. And I'll give you an example from my own life when I was deep in that. So I was working as a chef, as you know, unhappy, hated my job. I would get up in the morning, I'd go do my 10, 12-hour shift. I would get home from work. Even when I quit drinking, I was still in this cycle. And also, when I quit drinking, I still continued smoking pot. And that was kind of my crutch that I used my excuse to not start drinking again. So in a way, I just kind of took one addiction and masked it with another. But now I'm happy to say that I've given that up too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. But I lost my train of thought there. But I used to go to work every day and come home, and then when I would get home, I would just numb myself, and then on my days off, I would just numb myself all day. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything to make my life better. I was reading books and I was meditating, and I would set goals for myself. I guess, I set goals for myself. I just started reading not that long ago. So I'd set goals. I want to read a certain number of books a year or something. I read my first book when I was 35 years old. I'm sure I read books when I was a kid, like little books, but I never read a whole book, since I finished school until I was 35. I heard something one day that really resonated with me, and it was, what it said was, spend your days off making your life better and not escaping your life. And that really struck me, because I was spending my days off escaping my life. And I could complain about my life all I wanted, but I wasn't doing anything to make it better. I wasn't doing anything about it. I was just numbing myself with whatever, drugs and fast food and junk food and all this stuff. But I wasn't doing anything. I didn't have a purpose. I had my family and stuff. I had my family and I had my job, but I didn't have anything that I was doing for me that was driving me forward to give me a purpose. Fast forward to today, I got tons of stuff on the go, and I have a purpose. I have this podcast that I'm doing. I have this program that I'm launching. I have all this stuff that I'm doing that I'm constantly driving forward to achieve. And I think that that's the difference that I was lacking before. When you don't have anything that you're striving towards, then you're going to feel lost and stuck. So I think, the short answer to that is you need to have some goals or something that you're pushing towards. And I think that's the main reason why people are feeling lost or stuck right now. So my number one piece of advice is, if you're feeling lost or stuck right now, set some goals, think about what you want to do. If you don't know how to do that, that's why there's life coaches like me out there trying to help people. Sign up for a coaching program, work with a mentor to help you get on track, and it'll make a huge difference. So, what a difference from where I was a couple of years ago to where I'm at now. So, yeah, that's awesome. All right, guys, I think that is pretty much it for the questions today. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. I think we're going to possibly doing part 2 of this in the coming episodes. So stay tuned for that. So I'm going to end here with a final thought. You have the power to create the life you want. Don't let fear or limiting beliefs keep you from stepping into your full potential. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, you'll be waiting forever. The key is to take action and just start, even if it feels messy, because it is going to feel messy. And the perfect moment is never coming. Trust me, I waited for 40 years for the perfect moment. You won't be perfect at the beginning, and that's okay. Growth happens in the process. I've learned everything by doing, and I'm still figuring out things as I go. Now look at this whole podcast thing. I'm just figuring this out as I go. I never hosted a podcast before until I did my first episode. I had no idea what I was doing, but that didn't stop me from doing it. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who submitted the questions. I truly Appreciate your participation, and I'm so grateful for this conversation. And as always, if you'd like to connect with me, you can reach out to me on Instagram at transformative_pathways. You can find my link tree in the show notes below, where I'll have access to all my social media, my email list, my private community, and options to book a free consultation or apply to my one-on-one coaching programs. And also, just a quick reminder, I'm offering $500 off my 12-week coaching program, The Journey Within, exclusively for listeners of this show. If you're interested and want more details, please send me a message on Instagram, and I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you could like, subscribe, and follow us on your favorite listening platform. And if you'd like to support the show, we'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a review. It would mean so much to us, and it would also help the show reach more listeners. Thank you so much for being with us today, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.
This has been the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Dobie. Tune in each week for more insights, inspiring stories, and transformative journeys. Until then, keep exploring the path to keep your best self. Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.